Peace and love. Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Today we're going to be talking about the flat earth Skynet, what many of us call the firmament dome, and what many of us are finding out are the multi-layered firmament domes in a multi-layered cosmic egg system. Today we're going to be talking about the Skynets and the seven heavens. And before we go in too deep, let me just give a rundown. I've been continuing my research into the flat earth and magnetic universe rabbit hole. I've found some very profound knowledge on the nature of the sky and the firmament. Could the firmament be a net that filters the light out of this world into other worlds? What if what we call stars are not distant light sources at all, but openings in the Skynet where we are seeing light escape this world and filter into the next world? When you think of stars and the way they twinkle and the different spectrums of light that make up this world, it's very possible that what we're looking at may not be distant light sources, but actually holes in the firmament where we're seeing light bleed out. Another way you can look at this is if you were inside of a well-lit room, but you was trapped under a black box, you would only see darkness. But if someone came and poked holes in that black box, you would start to see little openings appear in the sky. Could the firmament be a net that filters the light out of this world into other worlds? If the sun is electric and the moon is magnetic, then the sun is giving off light. But what if darkness is not the absence of light after all? What if darkness is the consumption of light, the magnetic absorption of light? In other words, without the magnetic presence of the night and the moon, could it be possible that the sunlight could very well illuminate the entire flat earth plane? Could it be that what's stopping that is what we're calling darkness, which isn't the absence of light, but a real force? So if light is represented by a bulb, then darkness can be looked at as the lampshade. Darkness or dark net, that which filters the light so that the light is defined and controlled. Darkness is a real force that is consuming light, because we know that light can escape magnetism. So when we talk about day and night, they can be looked at as electrical discharge from L or the sun. And night can be looked at as the very magnetic shaping of that light and absorption of that light to balance it out. Just like a light and a lampshade, darkness sits above the day and actually shapes the daylight. The sun has electrical energy, which is powering energy, which is driving energy that propels you to get up out of the bed and go out and be productive under the daylight. And at nighttime, it's a very magnetic energy that attracts you to sleep or the darkness to recharge. And the word rest is the word reset or reset, as the sun makes its way back around to drive you back up and out again. So this is the duat that creates reality: electric or driving energy and magnetic or absorbing energy, draining energy. And these two, yin and yang, can be looked at as throw and catch, give, receive, sperm and egg, man and woman. So you can look at the yin and the yang just like that. Electricity, which is discharge, drive, force, energy, and drain energy being magnetism. And you need them both. So the light of each day is filtered through each night. Darkness can be looked at as magnetism, light as electricity. You can see them both on the image on the right. Under a ferrocell, we are able to see the bending of light by magnetism, or the shaping of light by magnetism, and it reveals the identity of a magnetic energy field. And this is just a small version of what the earth is. And if the moon is magnetic and the sun is electric, it's another way of saying a light bulb and a lampshade. You could very well let the light bulb light without the lampshade, but there's nothing to filter the light or balance the light. When there is no lampshade or nothing, it's just free to emit its discharge without a filter. So why do we put lampshades on light bulbs? To filter the light and control it and to balance it out so that its rays are more targeted and equally distributed. And if we look at the sun like the light bulb, which is an electric discharge, and we look at the moon, the stars being openings in the darkness that's filtering the light out of this world into other worlds, and the very presence of darkness is not the absence of light, but a real force that consumes light magnetically, the way magnets consume light. We have electric being the sun, magnetic being the moon. When we think about night and day, we got to think about them as equal forces, as opposed to night being the absence of one of those forces. Night is a real entity, a real force of its own that actually consumes light, that actually absorbs light, just like a magnet absorbs light. So light is also energy. And under the sunlight or daylight, again, it's driving force. And under the moonlight, you're being drained. Your energy seems to be sucked right out of you. And that's the moon and the night energy calling you to reset. So another way you can look at this is that it is the night that actually shapes the light of the day. And it is the night that is the most high that sits above the day. Just like we see in Egyptian cosmology, Nut would be the lampshade. We can see Nut filtering out the light of this world through the openings in her body that we call stars. So we can start to look at light as a bubble in a primordial sea of magnetic darkness or dark net. And it is this sea that shapes the light, just like we see light bending under a ferrocell. It's the shape of the magnetic energy field, which is invisible, or the darkness that's actually shaping the visible light. So again, what if darkness is not the absence of light, but the consumption of light by this ever-present primordial magnetic force that we can only detect and define through its bending of the light. And it's this darkness that gives shape to everything. Just like if you was putting cookie dough in a mold, it's the mold or the negative space that's giving shape to the actual physical cookie. And this is also another way you can look at space and counter space. So then we begin to see that the word life and light are synonymous. And lights flicker on and off just like humans die and are reborn. The firmament could be a net that filters the light out of this world into other worlds. And the further out you go, the worlds are less dense, less defined, and more subtle than the inner worlds. The outer worlds make up the dream planes, astral planes, and more subtle realms. These are the realms we go to when we leave the body during dreams, astral travel, and etc. We are light beings that exist on all of the planes of existence by projecting ourselves outward from the center where the true self resides. Each dome is a magnetic energy field that is transparent and highly reflective. The true self is at the center, and each dome acts like a mirror, reflecting the self out into the many planes of existence, sort of like a mirror house. The further you go out, it seems like the reality becomes more and more like a dream, and the reality is less defined because these planes are like shadow planes where reality fades out like the ripples that are further away from the point of impact. The inner worlds feel more quote unquote real and are more defined. The innermost world is actually a portal that leads in and out of the cosmic egg into the multiverse, which looks similar to bubble wrap, with each bubble being its own multi-layered cosmic egg. The center sky vault, or opening in the seven heavens, constantly sends out the pulse of life that holds all of these worlds in existence. Think of a rock falling into water, creating a ripple effect. The center of the cosmos can be seen as a rock that is constantly rippling the magnetic waters of creation to maintain this eternal ripple effect that we call our cosmos, which can be seen as an ecosystem or ecosystem, with the echoes being created from the center, then echoing outwards until they get more and more faint or less defined. So if you think of a stacked fountain with the water coming out the top ring, falling down into all of the other rings around it, this is one way we can look at the seven heavens, or the different sky nets that connect this world with the worlds beyond this world. We've all seen the flat earth ring maps and Plato's Atlantis and different depictions of ancient cosmology that show these ring systems looking sort of like a ripple effect. I've come to realize that this is more than likely what the step pyramids are representing, our true origins. There are many ancient deities such as this Nagini, which is the personification of a ripple effect, and the head in the middle being the point of impact, or the place where the rock hit the water, and you can see the rings going outward in the form of a spiral tail. Today's scientists took this and turned it into Milky Way systems and other forms of CGI, but they all resemble a ripple effect, and they all resemble Plato's Atlantis, Dante's Inferno, and the ancient religious concepts of the seven heavens. If there are different planes of existence beyond our ring, and there are many rings beyond our ring that are planes of existence, then each one will have its own skynet or firmament dome. And the most inner firmament dome, you can only look up at the sky. But once you get to the second ring or the second firmament dome, you can look down into this world, and you can only look up and wonder about the worlds beyond. So this is the stairway to heaven concept. Each firmament is like a veil or a layer that shields you in ignorance to the next world. And whichever world you're presently in, it's the realm of understanding that you're on. And this same concept can be seen as one moves through the ranks of Freemasonry. One can look down at all of the previous ranks that one has risen from with the entire knowledge of those ranks. But on the flip side, he could only look up and wonder about the higher ranks and how the initiation process gonna go and what's the responsibility and duties of those ranks. Everything above the initiate is a mystery, and everything below it is history. So again, if you think of that stacked water fountain, the bigger rings are at the bottom. And if you were on one of those bottom rings of that water fountain and you were to look up, you would only see the bottom of the plane that's above you or the ring that's above you. You won't be able to see the water inside of it. You only see the bottom, and the surface will be hidden from you. You will only be able to see what's on the surface when you climb up that next level. And from the highest peak, you can look down and see the surfaces of all the water rings. But from the lowest one, you can't see the surface of any one of them but that one. But as you move up, you can look back and see the surfaces of the one you came from and the one that you're currently in. But you will never be able to see the surface of the water on the rings that's above you. So the concept of Yahweh's terrarium is real. When you leave this plane and go to the next, we all look into this world like how they say God is looking down upon the world, or how they say the ancestors are watching over you. The ancestors are able to look into our world like a crystal ball and see our actions. The stacked water fountain resembles a ripple effect and show you how all of the worlds are fed from the Mount Meru center fountain, which is not a ring, it's a stone, the black stone Rupes nigra, which is the North Pole or the North Hole, a magnetic hyperboloid, and it's symbolized as a black stone. And all of the worlds or rings surround it. That's because this is the point of singularity. This dark stone that the ancestors put at the center of their ancient cosmology is what's causing the ripple effect. I remember the late great master teacher, Dr. Deborah Blair, saying that each plane of existence was a classroom for different levels of understanding, and we're all advancing higher. He said something of that nature. Each world is a classroom that is there to house you at whatever state of consciousness that you're in or what level of understanding that you're on. And I think that's kind of crazy that we use the word understanding, implying to which heaven you're standing under. And if our souls are light bodies, then we exit the sky vault just like light exit out of this world. And what determines where our soul goes is what net we get caught up in. And remember, consciousness is a form of light. So when you're feeding your soul and your spirit through knowledge, you're actually growing your aura, and your macrocosmic body or your light body is getting bigger. And the more fuel in the rocket, the further it can go. The bigger the balloon, the higher it can ascend. When the body goes into the ground upon death and you shift your consciousness to the light body to travel the multiverse, you will only be able to ascend based upon how big your Merkaba is. So you could think of each of these sky nets as different filters. And just like a fisherman will have different size nets to catch different size fishes, that's how we can look at the nature of the seven heavens. Remember that the highest heaven is the throne of God, and no one goes to that heaven without going through Christ. And Christ is just a combination of all of the archangels combined, guarding each of the heavens. And that's what those keys represent that Christ was given when he went to slay the dragon. Slaying the dragon is basically slaying the ego. You can't ascend to higher realms with the ego. And when you think about the different size nets to catch different size fish or different levels of consciousness, they tell you that Jesus was a fisher of men. But not only that, the word Christ is the word crest, and crest just means arch. In fact, the crown of thorns that Christ wears is a representation of a magnetic energy field. And that's what each of these heavens are separated by. Everyone goes to heaven and everyone goes to hell because each heaven is just a sky for another plane of existence, and that can be seen as heaven and hell. The Skynet system is a filtering system that is there to catch souls, sort of like school is a filtering system, and each grade is there to catch the students that's filtering in from the grade below it. Each plane of existence is necessary for each level of consciousness that we shift to. So when you outgrow the level of consciousness in this plane of existence, I believe that you're able to pass through the sky vault, and the sky is the limit, meaning that when we say the sky is the limit, it's because there can possibly be more than seven heavens. And who knows how far out this ripple effect can go. You can expand your consciousness as big as you like. No one can put a limit on how far you can actually grow and expand your consciousness. When we say things like the sky is the limit, it makes sense now, meaning that you can ascend as high as your level of consciousness is. So when we learn everything we need to learn to ascend from this plane of existence under this sky, then we pass through the vault of heaven and we go high as our consciousness will allow us before we're filtered into another plane of existence that may be above this one, maybe 2 levels above it, maybe 3 levels above it. It depends on your level of consciousness when you leave here, which Skynet you are filtered in and which plane of existence you re-solidify in the flesh. Passing through the vault of heaven was symbolized throughout religions in so many ways. In one particular famous way, the Last Supper is a painting that's personifying the afterlife voyage of one passing through the vault of heaven. In the image, Jesus represents the opening in the vault, or the bread being broken, because the cosmos shaped like a bread loaf, like the sky goddess Nut is shaped like an arch, like bread. And when Jesus breaks the bread, it represents the breaking or the opening in the firmament dome that we call the vault of heaven. So Jesus in the middle of the table breaking the bread represents the vault of heaven that all of the stars and wandering stars make their circuit around. And that's why this is called the Passover, because one is passing over the vault of heaven. And we got to go through Christ in order to do this, or through the crests or the arches, the degrees, the steps. And this is climbing the stairway to heaven. The word star sounds very similar to the word stair. And all of the stars are like a stairway that all lead to Polaris. Kind of make you think stars are like gateways up this magic mountain, and they are transferring the consciousness or the soul or the light body, passageways up the stairway to heaven. So we re-examine what stars are. The ancestors said that the stars were their ancestors and that we come from the stars. This is because the stars aren't distant light sources. They are actually openings in our Skynet that filter souls in and out of this plane of existence. So you have fallen angels and shooting stars, people leaving, people coming through the Skynet in the vault of heaven. So it makes perfect sense now when we see things like Beam Me Up, Scotty. Keep in mind that seven heavens is a part of religious cosmology found in many major religions such as Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, and in some minor religions such as Hermeticism and Gnosticism. The throne of God is said to be above the seventh heaven in Abrahamic religions. In religious or mythological cosmology, the seven heavens refer to seven layers of the sky. These were associated in ancient times both with the metaphysical realms of deities and with observed celestial bodies such as the classical planets and fixed stars. The seven angels or archangels are given as related to the 7 days of the week, Michael being for Sunday, Gabriel being for Monday, Raphael Tuesday, Uriel Wednesday, Salaphael Thursday, Raguel or Hegudel Friday, and Barakiel Saturday. These are the different archangels, as they call them. Now we understand why in ancient religions they call them archangels. They're simply the different gate guards to each of these skynets. We see that the word arch is linked to a lot of high-ranking positions in society. So like how you have archangels being celestial gate guards, you also have something like, for example, in Freemasonry, arch degrees, which are the gate guarding degrees within Freemasonry. They stand in between the bottom ranks and the small upper echelon that rules the whole pyramid scheme. They tell you when you go to heaven, you reach a gate with an angel in front of it. Well, a gate looks very similar to a net because a gate is there to serve the same purpose as a net, to filter the right people in and out of that dwelling. So if the archangel don't let you into that gate, it's not because you're going to hell, it's because you actually ascending higher to your particular gate. We all going up the elevator, but most of us going to be getting off at different floors. So in ancient religious cosmology, instead of saying there was different skynets to filter different size fishes, so to speak, if the fishes are the soul, In these ancient religion mythologies, instead of personifying the different firmaments as sky nets that's filtering fishes and the fishes being souls, they personified the sky nets as different gates with a different angel that either allow you access or not allow you access. So the throne of God is the reigning center of God in the Abrahamic religions, primarily Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The throne is said by various holy books to reside beyond the seventh heaven and is called Araboth in Judaism and Al-Arsh in Islam. According to Hindu cosmology, above the earthly plane are other planes. Bhuva Loka, Swaga Loka, meaning good kingdom, is the general name for heaven in Hinduism, a heavenly paradise of pleasure where most of the Hindu devatas or devas reside along with the king of devas, Indra, and beautified mortals. Also, for more on this multi-layered sky system and the multi-layered cosmic egg concept, please check out the video by Martin Kinney, Cosmic Egg, if you have not already. Check that one out right after you watch this one if you haven't saw that one, because it's very important to tie into this. So a lot of the concepts of a multi-layered system of different planes and different sky nets, a lot of these concepts are the result of generations of development in the sciences, and most of them are rooted in geocentric cosmologies, earth-centered ideas about the structure of the universe. In some cultures, the layers or heavens in the sky were understood as vast spheres, each rotated around the earth at its own pace, taking its associated point of light and any associated heavenly beings along. Speculation spread about the effect all celestial objects, not only the sun and moon, but other points of light such as Mars, Jupiter, and fixed stars might exercise over earthly events. Stories and symbolic associations followed. The concept of seven heavens, as developed in ancient Mesopotamia, symbolized both physical and metaphysical concepts. In the Sumerian language, the words for heaven or sky and earth are An and Ki. Sumerian incantations of the late second millennium BCE make references to seven heavens and seven earths. That's exactly the cosmology that I came up with my little paint description. And what you see to the right of what I did in paint is what a magnetic energy field looks like under a ferrocell. It's basically a patented device that allow you to see a magnetic energy field, and that's essentially what makes up everything, electromagnetism. It explains not only the shape of our cosmos, but the function of it. And also, when people ask why is flat earth important, because the shape of the earth is a symbol that unlocks the secrets of how to create infinite energy upon the earth. Flat earth is a symbol that is actually an ancient patent, and by studying the concept, you learn the secrets that Tesla unlocked and the mysteries of infinite energy, perpetual motion devices, what they're calling anti-gravity, which is magnetic levitation, and so much more. If you haven't been following my streams on magnetism, you really need to check them out. I know that they're long, but if you watch them, I swear it's the holy grail of information and everything you need to know about the nature of our electromagnetic cosmos. So the Mesopotamians had an incantation, which was An Emin Biki Eminbi, and that meant the heavens are seven, the earths are seven. Let me say that one more time for you. In ancient Mesopotamia, they had an incantation, which is a spiritual chant that they used to do during ritual. And that incantation was An Emin Biki Eminbi. And it translates to the heavens are seven, the earths are seven. The understanding that the heavens can influence things on earth lent heavenly magical properties to the number seven itself, as in stories of seven demons, seven churches, seven spirits, or seven thrones. The number 7 appears frequently in Babylonian magical rituals. The 7 Jewish and the 7 Islamic heavens may have had their origin in Babylonian astronomy. Keep in mind that the Jewish menorah is also 7 candlesticks, which represent the 7 heavens. In general, heaven is not a place for humans in Mesopotamian religion, as Gilgamesh says to his friend Enkidu in the Epic of Gilgamesh, "Who can go up to heaven, my friend? Only the gods dwell with Shamash forever." Along with the idea of 7 heavens, the idea of 3 heavens was also common in ancient Mesopotamia. The reason heaven was not a place for humans in Mesopotamian religion is because heaven is not necessarily a place to reside, but it's simply a skynet that filters the soul into another plane of existence where you actually reside on the plane and not in the sky itself. The sky serves as a net to filter the souls or the light from the bottom worlds to their respected places above. Some of us gonna ascend higher than others. Some of us are gonna leave this realm and go to higher heavens. Some of us are gonna leave this realm and just go one step up to the next realm based upon our levels of consciousness, but we all headed to the same place. And it really don't matter if you rush or take your time and enjoy the ride, because the destination is infinity. Another symbol that was used by ancient Christians to symbolize the firmament was the saint's anchor. And an anchor is designed to stop a ship, just like a firmament is designed to stop a soul, which can be looked at as a mothership or Merkaba. So now all of the symbols start to make sense to us now, and we see that even though they all are different things, they all serve the same purpose. Your soul is a ship that travels the primordial oceans of Nu, and where it lands is where you solidify and become one with the land or the dirt, the ground. When the invisible magnetic energy that make up you come in contact with the elements, you begin to take shape and solidify. Just like when light come in contact with a magnetic energy field, the light will begin to take shape and the invisible magnetic energy field will begin to have definition and form by clothing itself with light. And everything at its purest state is magnetic energy, which is invisible. And when that invisible energy leaves the body, it's filtered through the sky nets. We see it exiting out of this world as twinkling stars, all of the souls that are dying at this moment, basically, because every second someone is dying, and every second someone is born, and every second those stars in the sky are twinkling on. If you were inside of a huge arena that was dark, and there was a small door at the end of that arena, and that small door kept opening and closing very, very fast, you would see it as a twinkling star. The stars will continue to twinkle. So what if the stars, like I said, are not distant light sources, but openings in the skynet that allow souls to enter and exit? And the twinkling looks similar to what the ancestors call waters above, but that water isn't liquid water. It's similar to the aurora borealis. When light is combined with magnetic energy or toroidal flow, we can see the energy flow and the light moving just like water. In fact, it's moving more fluid than water. Magnetism is even more fluid than water. Everything breaks down to magnetic energy fields. So this is the nature of the waters above, not liquid water. Check out my previous videos on magnetism for more on that. In Islam, the Quran frequently mentions the existence of 7 samawat, plural of sama, which is customarily translated as heaven. The word is cognate to Hebrew shamayim. Some of the verses in which Quran mentions 7 samawat are Quran 41 verse 12, Quran 65 verse 12, Quran 71 verse 15. There are two interpretations of using the number 7. One viewpoint is that the number 7 here simply means many and is not to be taken literally. The number 7 is often used to imply that in the Arabic language, but many other commentators use the number 7 literally. So again, the number 7, guys, just represent the angle, which is what the firmament domes are. They are the archangels, literally, or the angles of the arch that separate the planes of existence. Each one has a gate to allow souls to be filtered into that reality if need be, if they need to go there for that experience to move on. And this is a good depiction of Muhammad's paradise. This is a Persian miniature from the history of Muhammad. And this is a depiction of the 7 heavens and the different angels or the different gates at each sky vault. And you can see the souls on each plane of existence, on each heaven, showing you that there are different realms of existence that goes up to, I believe, infinity, because the number 7 isn't to be taken literal how we use numerical digits. The only amount is infinity. What we perceive as amounts, small, large, medium, are simply based upon perception. But what's universal to every human is this amount called infinity. We all can't perceive it, so that makes it universal, versus small, medium, and large, which is polarity, the duat. But when you're traveling vertically up the cosmic elevator through the sky vault, in and out of existence, the sky is literally the limit. The sky is the limit. You can ascend as high as your consciousness will allow you, and then you will be met with another firmament dome or another sky. There will always be a sky above your head because you'll never ascend beyond infinity. So each world is to house lower or higher states of consciousness, and they all serve as classrooms, places to have an experience so that you can continue your journey on up Jacob's ladder. Also, one interpretation of heavens is that all the stars and galaxies, including the Milky Way, are all part of the first heaven. And beyond that, 6 bigger worlds are there, which have yet to be discovered by scientists. Remember recently when NASA told us they discovered 7 new planets? It's all symbolism and they just laughing at you. Everyone understood the 7 heaven concept. All of the symbolism that NASA is giving us today is plagiarization and corruptions of those ancient concepts. And they're there to hide the ancient truth, because within these ancient secrets are the secrets to create free energy, and that's something they do not want. So it's deeper than the shape of the earth. There's free energy also that they're hiding, and also the nature of this place, your soul and the afterlife journey that many ancients always prepared for. So many people was asking me, how does this tie into the Saturn moon matrix? When people say that the moon eats souls, we escape through the night. So when Christians say, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that valley can be looked at as the sky goddess Nut. That narrow valley, when we're traveling through heavens, can be looked at as the sky vault on a macro, but on a micro, what's happening on the plane beneath it is you're biologically entering the narrow path of your mother's birth canal. So the sky vault is linked to the woman, and basically the invisible magnetic energy that we're calling the soul or the spirit is filtered in from the sky vault through a small opening or canal. And at the same time that's happening, the energy is manifesting in the womb of the mother, which is a biological vault or canal that the soul will exit through. It enters through the sky vault and it exits onto the plane through its mother's canal. And they both are entry and exit points. Every woman is a portal for life to enter and exit. And all women are directly connected to the vault of heaven, because as these different heavens filter in souls, once they're caught up in the net on a heavenly plane, the energy is being manifested on an earthly plane in the net of its mother's womb. So the mother stomach begin to be a miniature version of the firmament, being that they both are a dome or a net to catch the soul. The word pregnant is the word pregnut. Nat and nut is the same word. And basically what the word mean is the arch or the womb. And the word preg is associated with the word prego, which is another word for pregnant. But the word preg means sprinkle or spark. So when we say pregnant or pregnant, we're saying spark and net. So the word pregnant can be translated to the net that catches the spark or the consciousness. This would be the subconsciousness. The subconscious is the transitioning aspect, the transport, while we call it the mothership. Remember that a submarine is that which transports, or a subwoofer is that which transmit the signal from the monitors through a central location. You can look at each monitor left and right as man and woman, but they both go through the subwoofer or the mother, because she is the base or the foundation, which is a representation of the subconscious, that which is magnetic. It draws you in like a baseline. So the sperm is magnetically attracted to the vehicle by which its spark will be transitioned and transported to the next phase of reality. And that take place in the mother. She's directly connected to the sky vault. She's basically home plate. Like I said, the base. She's the transporter or the vehicle. Remember, in a song, the bass is what drives the song. Listen to the words we use. It drives the song. There's only one bass line, and the bass is monologue, is mono. All the other instruments are poly. Mono means singularity, poly meaning polarity. So you could look at the sky vault as a net that acts like a trampoline. And as a soul is caught in that net, there's tension, just like when you jump in the middle of a trampoline. And when the soul is caught up in the sky net, that tension can be seen on the earthly plane in the form of the mother's stomach becoming tight and bulging outward during pregnancy. So this is micro and macro. As the soul make contact with the sky net on a macrocosm level, the sperm or the spark is making contact with nut, which is the egg, on a biological level. The walnut or the nut shapes like an egg, and that's why they share the same name. And remember, preg is to sprinkle. So when you're saying pregnant, you're saying sprinkle the nut. And that's what's happening. A bunch of sperms are sprinkled onto a nut or an egg, which looks like a nut. When we say bust a nut, the terminology stems from the science of the sperm cracking open the egg. When that soul lands upon the sky net, there's a bulge, just like you landing in the middle of a trampoline. And that bulge is happening in macrocosm and microcosm. The firmament dome also represent the mother intercepting that soul from the sky vault in her stomach. So we see the mother's stomach capture that soul from the heavens, and then she began to take upon that tension in her belly in the form of pregnancy. So the mother captures the soul from the sky vault, and we can see that same bulge and tension that we see from the sky vault act out on an earthly plane as the invisible energy is becoming solidified. When your pure magnetic energy come in contact with the elements, you begin to take shape and definition, just like when light come in contact with a magnetic energy field, the light begins to take on a shape and definition like we see in the image to the right. This is no different than throwing a sheet over an invisible man to expose the definition or identity to make that invisible man visible. So when you die and you leave the body, your soul ascends up the stairway to heaven through the different domes to your next mission, whatever plane of existence you land on. Your invisible energy is caught up into that next plane of existence that you ascend to, and you are no longer a shooting star traveling upward through the sky nets. You're now a fallen angel. At the same time, you are being caught up on a macrocosmic level on your next plane of existence in that particular sky net, which shapes like a dome. That is taking place spiritually in the heavens. At the same time, on the earth plane, it's playing out as your mother's stomach turning into a dome. So the dome shape is a portal shape. That's why our tombstones shaped like a pregnant belly. The earth shapes the same with the domes. Remember, this shape is simply a doorway. So when we leave the body, things play out on macro and micro simultaneously. As your soul is snared into the skynet of the next plane of existence that you're destined to go, what happens on the earth plane simultaneously is that invisible energy is being solidified in the womb of a mother, and her stomach is taking the same shape of the firmament dome because it's all about tension. Just like if you was jumping on a trampoline, when your body impact the trampoline, it's gonna shape like a dome or a pregnant belly. Once the firmament catches your soul, all your energy is now shot back downward to that particular earth plane that's associated with that particular skynet. And when that invisible energy transitions from being a shooting star to a fallen angel, we see it on an earthly physical plane in the form of a bulging belly, catching that tension that the soul made upon the skynet when it impacted. So that tension has to go somewhere. And when your soul is caught up in the firmament of the next plane of existence, it's the same as you jumping in the middle of a trampoline. And when all that tension is released, you're shot downward onto the earthly plane as a fallen angel. And we can see that tension being intercepted in the mother's belly when her stomach starts to bulge out as she catches the invisible soul from the sky vault. So it's like ping pong. It's a multi-layered, complex system of bouncing and reflecting light, which is souls in and out of different planes of existence through the use of what I call sky nets and what the ancients call heavens. So this is not liquid water, it's magnetic watts of energy, toroidal energy. And there was this ancient city called Angkor Wat that was built just like the ancient conception of the cosmos. And it was a city that was designed to produce energy and power. The firmament dome is also the pregnant belly, and they both are transitioning the soul to the next plane. And they both are doorways, and that's why this arch shape is a doorway. So this sacred geometry starts to become very powerful when you look at it from this aspect. In other sources, the concept of seven heavens is presented in metaphorical terms. Each of the seven heavens is depicted as being composed of a different material, and Islamic prophets are resident in each. The first heaven is depicted as being made of silver, and it's the home of Adam and Eve, as well as the angels of each star. The second heaven is depicted as being made of gold, and it's the home of John the Baptist and Jesus. The third heaven is depicted as being made of pearls or other dazzling stones. Joseph and Azrael are resident there. The fourth heaven is depicted as being made of white gold. Enoch and the angel of tears resides there. The fifth heaven is depicted as being made of silver. Aaron and the avenging angel hold court over this heaven. The sixth heaven is composed of garnets and rubies. Moses can be found here. The seventh heaven, which borrows some concepts from its Jewish counterpart, is depicted as being composed of divine light incomprehensible to the mortal man. Abraham is a resident of the seventh heaven. According to some hadiths, the highest level of Jannah is Firdaus. In Sidrat el-Muntaha, a lot tree marks the end of the seventh heaven. An explicit reference to the third heaven appears in the Christian New Testament canon. A Pauline epistle penned in Macedonia around 55 CE describes this mystical experience. I know a person in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. And guys, I just want to stop a minute to interject and put here that you got to look at the words that's being used in this Christian literature. I don't care if you're a Christian or not. This gives us peeks into the ancient world on what the ancient Christians thought about the Skynet system and the seven heavens. And it's very interesting that in this scripture, they use the word caught up. And when we talk about Christ, that's exactly what Christ represents, being caught up or raptured. And the word raptured is really the word rupture. And it's another way to say capture. But this is a different type of capturing. And again, this is being misinterpreted as the Saturn moon matrix as well. And this is what happened to the mother's body. It rips, it stretches, the stomach stretches, and you can see rip marks or rupture marks or rapture marks. And remember that the raptor symbol is the same symbol as the mark of the beast. They got y'all calling it claw marks of a beast, but it's really the stretch marks on the pregnant belly where the baby is ripping into existence, basically becoming present in reality. And to do that is to rip through what they are conveniently calling the fabric of space and time and occupy a space. As the baby solidifies, it occupies a space in this realm, and that can be seen as a rip in the ether, because she's catching that tension that I spoke about earlier from the sky vault, which is capturing the souls. This is nothing to be scared of. The number 8 represents this journey. This is the infinite journey up Jacob's ladder that we all are going through. And people are misinterpreting it with spookism with some Saturn moon matrix. The reason they call it the Saturn moon matrix is because Saturn is actually the ancient conception of our cosmos, and its rings represent the different worlds around the black stone at the center of the earth. So if you look at my conception of the ancient cosmos that I did in paint, you can see that it looks like the planet Saturn with all of the worlds in the form of rings. Like I said, they're plagiarizing these ancient concepts, watering down the information and turning it into spookism. And the reason the moon is associated with Saturn in this matrix, the matrix is the infinite journey of the soul up Jacob's ladder, putting on the flesh in the womb of the mother. That's what we mean by Jack popping out of the box. So when the Bible talk about being caught up, it's this Skynet system that snares the soul to its next plane of existence, wherever the universe have for you to go for your progression. So let's continue to read on and see what the ancient Christians said about the seven heavens. An explicit reference to the third heaven appears in the Christian New Testament canon. A Pauline epistle penned in Macedonia around 55 CE describes this mystical experience. I know a person in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that such a person, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows, was caught up into paradise and heard things that are not to be told, that no mortal is permitted to repeat. The description is usually taken as an oblique reference by the author to himself. The passage appears to reflect first century beliefs among Jews and Christians that the realm of paradise existed in a different heaven than the highest one, an impression that may find support in the original Greek wording, closer to caught away than caught up. In the 2nd century, Irenaeus also knows 7 heavens. See his demonstration of apostolic preaching 9 against heresies 1.5.2. Over the course of the Middle Ages, Christian thinkers expanded the ancient Mesopotamian seven heaven model into a system of 10 heavens. This cosmology, taught in the first European universities by scholastics, reached its supreme literary expression in the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. The second book of Enoch, also written in the 1st century CE, describes the mystical ascent of the patriarch Enoch through a hierarchy of 10 heavens. Enoch passes through the Garden of Eden in the 3rd heaven on his way to meet the Lord face to face in the 10th. And this is chapter 22 in the book of Enoch. Along the way, he encounters vividly described populations of angels who torment wrongdoers. He sees homes, olive oil, and flowers. The book's depiction of 10 heavens represented an expansion of the ancient 7-heaven model. This expanded cosmology was developed further in medieval Christianity. According to some Puranas, the Brahmanda is divided into 14 worlds. Among these worlds, 7 are upper worlds which constitute of Bhuloka, the earth, Bhuvaloka, Svarloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. And 7 are lower worlds which constitute of Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. According to Jain cosmology, there are 7 levels of Naraka, or hell. These are further divided into 8,400,000 other hellish locations. Also, Inanna visited the Sumerian 7-gated underworld. In the ancient Mesopotamian underworld, the 7 gates of the underworld are guarded by a gatekeeper who is named Neti in Sumerian. And I find that very interesting that the gatekeeper is named Neti, and the gate or the firmament dome in Egyptian cosmology is called Nut, which is net. It's also interesting that a gate shapes the same as the cosmos, like an arch, and it also has bars going horizontally and vertically, just like a net, and they both serve the exact same purpose. And we know that Jesus represents the firmament dome in ancient Christianity. The Christ is the crest, which is an arch. We know that Jesus was a fisherman, and fishermen uses nets to catch different sized fish. And we know that the firmament behaves like a net, a system of nets, like I've been describing. We talked about how in the previous cosmology, the different domes were decorated with different materials. And we read in the Christian Bible that the gates of heaven are made of pearls, or the pearly gates. So it's interesting that the 7 gates of the ancient Mesopotamian underworld are guarded by a gatekeeper who is named Neti. The god Namtar acts as Ereshkigal's Sukkah, or divine attendant. The dying god Dumuzit spends half the year in the underworld, while during the other half, his place is taken by his sister, the scribal goddess Jeshtinana, who records the names of the deceased. The underworld was also the abode of various demons, including the hideous child devourer Lamashtu, the fearsome wind demon and protector god Pazuzu, and Gala, who dragged mortals to the underworld. So this is really nothing to be scared of. It's just a colorful way of the ancient Mesopotamians describing decomposition and reincarnation of you becoming a child again. The child is basically devoured by the womb and cloaked in the fetal sac. And the whole process and journey up the sky vault is basically another way of saying Jonah in the mouth of the whale. One of the symbols that they give you for the Saturn moon matrix is a Pac-Man character eating the souls. But the Pac-Man is just the firmament dome with a crack in it. So when you draw a dome or an ancient flat earth model with shapes like a loaf of bread, and you put a crack in the middle of the bread, it looks like Pac-Man. But this breaking of the bread, again, can be seen in art like the Last Supper, where Jesus represents the vault of heaven. But we know that the vault of heaven is linked to the divine feminine and the woman who transitions invisible energy into physical energy, which is visible energy. And this can be all explained through magnetism, which is what the woman represents. She's magnetic, the male is electric. In the ancient Mesopotamian underworld, the child being devoured by the god Lamashtu is another way of saying the soul entering the vault of heaven, being born again as a newborn, swallowed up in the fetal sac of the mother. This is the story of Jonah being swallowed by the whale and spit out by the whale. Again, your journey through the Skynet, the crack in the dome, looks like the soul is being chewed up by a whale. But at the same time, that's happening in the macrocosm. In microcosm, the soul exits the womb of a woman and come out from in between her legs. It's another way of saying Jonah is coming out of the whale's mouth. Jonah's story is just a story of reincarnation or rebirth, just like all of these stories, such as Jesus dying and being reborn, such as baptism, is all the journey of the soul and reincarnation. The reason it's linked to Saturn, and Saturn eats the babies, the god Saturn is known to eat the babies, is for the same reason that the god Lamashtu ate the babies in ancient Mesopotamian mythology. And the eating is what I'm explaining now. Remember that this was symbolized as Passover as well, like I explained previously. And during Passover, there was eating going on. And the person that was dividing the food was Christ, symbolizing the hyperboloid that divides the bread or divides the food, the hole in the donut. The past tense of eat is ate, and ate is the hourglass, symbolizing a complete cycle of the soul, or you being completely ate. And this eating take place at the center of the earth, and on a microcosmic level, at the center of the earth being a woman, the earth that seed is planted in, or that spark of consciousness lands upon once it's sent from the vault of heaven down upon your next plane of existence. You will always come out of the portal of a woman. So at the center of the Hunapku, you see the goddess biting or eating. This is another way of saying everything breaks down at the center of the earth at a point of singularity, a drain type system, a cosmic boulevard or elevator, if you will. Another fact we want to write in our little notebooks is that when we talk about Mount Meru, there were many ancient civilizations that taught in their cosmogonies that humans originated from this magical mountain called Meru, where all compasses are pointing us to. A lot of those ancient cultures who taught that they originated from Meru, you can see remnants of these oral traditions in the very names by which we identify those cultures with today. For example, when we talk about ancient Lemurians, the Lemurians would be the ancient Sumerians. And you can see the word Meru in both of those names. The ancient Sumerians taught the same thing all of the other ancients taught, that we originated from Meru. So the name Sumeru became the word Sumeria or Sumerian. Same thing with Lemuru became Lemurian. Now that we got that fact locked into our mind, also keep in mind that in Jain cosmology, they speak about Mount Meru. And that's what we're going to talk about for a minute, because in Jain cosmology, just like the previous cosmologies, we have these 14 worlds, 7 above and 7 below. And if you look at the image that I drew out in paint, you can see is 7 firmaments above all connected to 7 planes of existence below. So whenever we see these ancient cosmologies that speak about 7 worlds above and 7 worlds below, you can refer to this image. But like I said, all of these worlds are born from Meru, just like all of the ripples in a ripple effect are born from the point of impact or the stone that impacts the water. So Mount Meru was depicted as a dark stone making a ripple effect, and that ripple effect is what creates the outer worlds. But we're talking more than just water here. We're talking about that which created the elements, and that's a magnetic mountain. Remember that the purest form of all things in existence is magnetic energy. And the most magnetic energy can be found at Mount Meru, or what we're calling the North Pole. This is the source, people. In Jain cosmology, Mount Meru, also Sumeru, is at the center of the world surrounded by Jambudvipa in form of a circle forming a diameter of 100,000 yohans. There are 2 sets of sun, moon, and stars revolving around Mount Meru. While one set works, the other set rests behind the Mount Meru. Jambudvipa continent has 6 mighty mountains dividing the continent into 7 zones or sectra. The names of these zones are Bharat Kestra, Mahavida Kestra, Aravat Kestra, Ramyak, Haranvat Kestra, Hemava Kestra, and Hari Kestra. The 3 zones, Bharat Kestra, Mahavida Kestra, and Aravat Kestra, are also known as Karma Bhumi because practice of austerities and liberation is possible, and the Tirthankaras preach the Jain doctrine. The other 4 zones, Ramyak, Haranivat Kestra, Hamava Kestra, and Hari Kestra, are known as Akama Bhumi or Bhog Bhumi, as humans live a sinless life of pleasure and no religion or liberation is possible. Nandishvara Vipa is not the edge of the cosmos, but it is beyond the reach of humans. Humans can reside only in Jambudvipa, Datatekanda Vipa, and the inner half of Pushkara Vipa. At Holoka, the lower world consists of 7 hells, which are inhabited by Bhavanpati, demigods, and the hellish beings. Hellish beings reside in the following hells: Ratna Prabha Dharma, Shakara Prabha Vansha, Valuka Prabha Mega, Pank Prabha Anjana, Dom Prabha Arista, Tama Prabha Magavi, Mahatama Prabha Madhavi. According to Jainism, time is beginningless and eternal. The Kalachakra, or the cosmic wheel of time, rotates ceaselessly. And that's because, ladies and gentlemen, at the center of the earth is a perpetual moving device. It'll never stop spinning because it's a 0 point. And if you want to see an experiment to demonstrate what I'm saying, you can check out Ken L. Wheeler video in the description. It shows you how when you spin something at the center of a magnetic energy field, it spins for a very, very long, extended period of time that would seem unnatural. I mean, you can almost go to sleep and wake up and it's still spinning. So when you look at that on a macrocosmic scale, what's possible with that, you can definitely create what's called a perpetual moving device, which will never stop spinning the pole at the center of the earth. And that pole is spinning the different firmament domes. And there's said to be 7 firmament domes, and all of them are spinning different ways and spinning at their different speeds and everything. So when you think of the Mayan cosmic wheel, you see that it's also a ripple effect with the Great Mother or Rupis Nigra at the center, creating the outer worlds. And they call it the Mayan calendar because it's actually a calendar that show you these different firmament domes spinning at their own rates and at their own time and everything. So the Mayans was on to this 7 heaven system as well, because when you look at the Mayan calendar or the Mayan cosmos, each ring represents a different type of year or a different calendar. And the word calendar is really the word cylinder, because that's what we're talking about. The sky revolves like a cylinder, and it's a system of cylinders within cylinders, calendars within calendars, just like the Mayan show. Each plane of existence is on its own time, basically. And what we're calling the wandering stars could be actually the sun and moon for those faraway planes of existence. And if you want to go into detail on that concept, again, I recommend Martin Kenny's video on the cosmic egg. So according to Jainism, the Kalachakra rotates ceaselessly. The wheel of time is divided into two half rotations, the ascending time cycle and the descending time cycle, occurring continuously after each other. The ascending is a period of progressive prosperity and happiness where the time spans and ages are at an increasing scale, while the descending is a period of increasing sorrow and immorality with decline in time spans of the epochs. In the ascending time cycle, the order of the eras is reversed. Started from Dusama, it ends with Susama, and thus this never-ending cycle continues. Each of these eras progress into the next phase seamlessly without any apocalyptic consequences. The increase or decrease in the happiness, lifespans, and length of people and general moral conduct of the society changes in a phased and graded manner as the time passes. No divine or supernatural beings are credited or responsible with these spontaneous temporal changes, either in a creative or overseeing role. Rather, human beings and creatures are born under the impulse of their own karmas. That's very interesting. The other side, or the spirit world, consists of many regions. The most well-known concept is that of 7 heavens. When we die, we first come to the lower astral world. In yoga, this is considered part of the earth and named Berloka. The second heaven is the middle astral world. The souls can move about the entire cosmos. They can go to the region of stars. Every star has a different sort of energy, and every soul can settle itself in the realm of a star. They can meet similar souls in this region. The fourth heaven is the world of positive souls. They have a positive system of beliefs. They follow love, peace, and truth. They are not totally enlightened in that they still have strong egos, but they can control the negative tendencies of their spirits and concentrate on positive. The fifth heaven is the first world of light. This light world is a paradise. In paradise, souls live in a state of enlightenment. One can only get to this paradise by being happy with oneself. It is helpful to exercise spiritual practices. The main technique for entrance into the world of light is the disintegration of the ego. The souls in paradise live in a state of love and the giving of love. They are not egoistic, rather altruistic. The sixth heaven is the world of the holy. In the seventh heaven, all outer forms cease to be. The soul rests still within God. Love, happiness, and peace in the seventh heaven are so big that there is no more room for movement. The holy beings here are simply enjoying their rest within God. The eighth heaven is found above the 7 heavens. It is everything in one, the connection of light and love in one dynamic, unified entity. It is life and light and the ability to affect in the lower worlds, earth and the astral world. When we allow our happiness and enlightened bliss to permeate beyond the world of light, the happiness grows. The further we succeed in dissolving the ego, the more expansive is our level of happiness. If we live for the happiness of others rather than our own happiness, we then become a kind of cosmic mother or father of all beings. God exists in essence as a mother and a father of all beings. He or she wants all beings to come to live in happiness and to come to the 7th heaven one day. This is the way of a spiritual master. A spiritual master devotes his or her life to the service of others. Who wants to live as a spiritual master should first of all even walk the spiritual path to the destination, or he should practice a dual path. He should make himself spiritually to the target and simultaneously take all of his fellow men. Both ways are possible in yoga. One can live many years as a yogi first and then return after his enlightenment in the world in order to help his fellow human beings. Or you live simultaneously as a yoga and a karma yoga, which is a spiritual teacher. Who lives in the eighth heaven lives in the ultimate double happiness. One lives in the light in God and additionally in the dimension of love. But this way is to go even harder than the normal spiritual path. It requires much wisdom if you want to help the many souls in the cosmos. One often has to take grief into account in order to lead his fellows well on their way into the light. A spiritual master takes it into stride by bringing all the elements into balance within. The inner calm is achieved through outer peace in the form of time for oneself, spiritual exercises, and trust in God. He delivers essentially the leadership of the great masters and the spontaneous activity of life. The path of love is a mystery. He feels like a way of sacrifice and ends in the overall happiness. One day, suddenly starts to flow the inner happiness and fills the whole world. So we see that in most ancient cosmologies, there are 7 heavens. In some cases, there are 8. And even in some cases, there are 10. And we can see each of these different numbers very sacred in religion. We know that 7 is the most sacred throughout all of the religions. You know, you got 7 chakras, 7 angels, 7 colors in the rainbow, and etc. In Christianity, the Sermon on the Mount had 7 sentences. And in some cases, you know, there are 8 heavens. So when you look at things like the Lord's Prayer, you can see that it's composed of 8 scriptures or 8 sentences. And we know that 8 is another symbol of infinity like 7. And we know 10 is the binary code representing the same thing, completion or infinity. Give and take, 1 and 0, man and woman, sperm and egg. And in religion, you see the number 10 is also significant. You have things like the 10 Commandments. And last but not least, we can find another account of 7 hells or 7 planes of existence in the afterlife in the famous Dante's Inferno. The 7 circles of hell described by Dante in the Inferno. The first circle was limbo. The second circle is lust. The third circle is gluttony. The fourth circle is greed. The fifth circle is wrath. The sixth circle is heresy. And the 7th circle is violence. 7 terraces of purgatory. After passing through the gate of purgatory proper, Virgil guides the pilgrim Dante through the mountain 7 terraces. These correspond to the 7 deadly sins or 7 roots of sinfulness. Again, pride, envy, wrath, sloth, avarice, and prodigality, gluttony, and lust. Keep in mind also that Catholics believe in heaven, hell, and something called purgatory also that has 2 purposes. A temporal punishment for sin and a cleansing from the attachment to sin. Purgatory purifies the soul before the soul's grand entrance into heaven. Purgatory is an often misunderstood Catholic doctrine. So we see that Dante's conception of the cosmos is the same as most ancient conceptions, and it resembles a step pyramid or a ripple effect. And you can see how this was plagiarized by modern scientists in forms of the Big Bang and the Milky Way. This is all CGI deception, but there's one ancient truth, and that's what all the ancients spoke about, and they're just reselling it to you for $60+ million a day in the form of NASA CGI deception. So like I said, the further out we go, the outer planes of existence are more like dream planes or astral planes. And that's very interesting because a lot of times when we have loved ones die, we see them in our dreams. They communicate in the dream realm or on a dream plane. Many of you may think, well, it's just all in my mind, but where is your mind? Your mind is on another plane of existence where the ancients really do exist. This world is reflected outward, and the further out you go, the more faint and subtle it gets until it finally fades out, just like a ripple effect. And the gradual fading can equate to the more dream-like the world is. So the deeper you go into REM sleep, the further out you go on further planes in the dream state. We see our dead loved ones in dreams because they exist on those outer dream planes. When we sleep, we slip. The word sleep is slip. We slip into other planes of existence. They say when we die, our life flash in front of us. This is a form of dreaming. This is a form of reflection. And that's exactly what each of these planes are, a reflection of this plane. So you can daydream, night dream, lucid dream, travel the astral plane, which is another way of saying traveling the multiverse. The ancestors always spoke of speaking to the dead, and most of us have experienced speaking to our loved ones after they pass away in dreams and different things of that nature. If we would harness this ability, it will be a normal thing to speak with our loved ones, and we'll see that they really didn't go nowhere. And all of these planes of existence are accessible at any given time. All of these worlds are interconnected. Guys, that completes today's video. I hope you all learned something from it about the nature of the firmament, the Skynet systems, or the seven heavens. Make sure if you subscribe to the channel that you hit the notification bell so you can receive alerts when I upload new videos. I won't be live streaming on this channel until December, but I will be uploading powerful videos just like this one. If you will, guys, go ahead and hit the like button for me if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, hit that notification bell. You want to help the channel out? Get in the video description area and you can give a one-time PayPal donation, or either you can become a monthly Patreon member. And when you do that, I will send you out a free crystal gift set of different types of crystals: amethyst, obsidian, lapis lazuli, and etc. So consider becoming a Patreon and pledging $5 a month to help me keep making more videos. But if you can't, no sweat. I appreciate you sharing the video and hitting the like button. All right, guys, let me get up out of here. Remember, new uploads every Thursday. Peace and much love.